A little bird told me a few of you guys out there like not high elves, wood elves. I apologize for mis-elfing these wood elves here, but Codex very kindly sent me this replay of a beautiful grudge match. Wood elves versus Beastmen, a true classic, absolutely. So let's take a look at the builds before they flash very quickly here. We've got some Eternal Guard on the front line, looks like cavalry support, consistent of Glade Riders with two Wild Riders. Yeah, 3 Glade Riders, looks like that's about it. Starfire Shafts, Hagbane Tips, plenty of Glade Guards mixed, along with, yeah, the Eternal Guards up front, and a Spell Weaver of Shadows. Interesting, super interesting choice. I love it. As for the Beastmen, Morgur, the Shadow Gave, got a Bracium of Beasts, Blood Brute, Behemoth, the Gorgon Regiment of Renown, Ungor Spearman Herd, or regular herd, Spearman Herd on the flanks. Pretty straightforward. We have an odd Pestigore mixed in here as well. So let's get the fun rolling as, this Beastmen advance. We're going to need to keep it in the wide view rather than getting close because they are all over the field right now, attacking both flanks of the Elves here. And yeah, some of those Glade Guards are going to get impacted. There's just no way to stop that much mobility, but Glade Guards, I mean, they're not the worst in terms of melee. You have fairly okay melee stats. 27 melee defense at least is all right. I'm not going to instantly die here necessarily, especially getting a couple volleys in return. Some timely cav support there. Glade Riders moving in, and yeah, maybe a little bit of a trap here. I didn't catch. Maybe there was a melt cost there as well. But a Pit of Shades being thrown. Not so common these days in land battles, but definitely just wrecks both of these hounds here. That is going to secure a nice little mobility gain, and also multiple Centaur units, and suddenly the Wood Elves find themselves at a nice little mobility advantage, honestly. Yeah, we've got one Wild Rider basically still full health, more or less. But yeah, this one also like 3/4 HP here, so despite the sort of chaotic and very spread out nature of that mobility fight, the Wood Elves come out pretty decisively on top. They also have a few Glade Guards still secure and able to rain down death on the Bloodbrute Behemoth, which, yeah, that accurate Elven Bowfire is going to take it down before it has a chance to heal in melee. Probably. Surely they won't switch targets before it's dead? Yes, okay. But Morgurd, in response, is going to pull up his spawn. Both spawn activated, so the Beastmen on a pretty big power spike right now. Spawn summons, I believe, did they get a duration increase? I know a lot of the high-end summons got a duration increase, but Spawn Summons is one that used to be super meta. Mortar was absolutely the go-to, you know, if you wanted to be competitive Beastman for most of Warhammer 2. Warhammer 3, it's been a little bit different, but yeah. I think with Spawn Summons having a longer duration, he's probably more back in the meta again, although it's still hard to beat Malagor in certain instances. That flying Flock of Doom spam is quite good. Of course, Doom Bull and Taurox, both situationally, could be good in certain matchups as well, but yeah, Glade Riders and the Wild Riders as well, sort of avoiding the Pestigores to a degree, especially while the Chaos Spawn are active, but the Pestigores with their poison attacks actually are going to be one of the scarier units here, even though the AP matters very little against the Wood Elves. Yeah, the fact that they have the poison attacks, fast speed, means they can really harass and, like, it just cause problems for the cavalry that wants to operate as freely as possible, but going to continue to see some cycle charging by the Glade Riders and Wild Riders. The Glade Riders, I mean, 40 charge bonus base is not bad. They're starting to get a little tired, so it'll be reduced over time, but Bit of Shades here on the pursuing Pestigores. A few Blade Guards get caught in that, but fortunately for the Ungor Spearman Herd, they also run straight into it and absolutely take a pretty good amount of health damage. Nice little bit of bonus there in terms of value. Yeah, Eternal Guards also out here scattered. We're looking like they're maybe going to get chased off, but with the Centaurs kind of leaving the Ungor Spearmen to their fate, Eternal Guards will start to actually win those fights to be able to return to the rest of the battlefield. And yeah, Skaven getting pretty thin on the ground. That is the one thing with Skaven. Did I say Skaven? Beastmen. How many times have I said Skaven in this replay? Anyway, I'm casting a bunch of replays today. It's kind of got tied up in my brain. Let's not get too caught up on it, but I didn't actually take the summons. Previously, there was a build where you would like summon Manticores and spawn at the same time and just go with a really like aggressive monster rush. It's a build I used to use it a little bit in the past, like Warhammer 2. But with the summons, and Manticores just in general are not that great of a monster right now. It's more really about the mobile terror. But with the higher tier summons having a longer duration, maybe something like that could work again. Not sure. Both the Cygor summon and the Manticore summon, neither of those monsters are like particularly great right now. So yeah, one thing to consider about this next part is that Morgr still has a huge amount of missile resistance we didn't actually see there. But yeah, so all those Elven arrows hitting him in the face, the amount of damage that he was taking is still impressive despite that missile resistance. But yeah, this is one of the reasons why you take so many Glade Guard, right? Even if few of them get charged down and destroyed, you still got more able to turn and continue shooting, and we see that absolutely pay out massive value for Codex here. The rest of his build, it's largely going to sort of be in support of that. Some of the Wild Riders do a respectable job, you know, getting their own value. It's pretty good numbers of kills all the way around, but yeah, fun stuff for sure, unless you're a Beastman, in which case you had a very bad time. Beastman Caster had a decent time overall, got some okay value there. Unfortunately, we don't get to see the spawn summons value, which for this one is probably going to be a decent amount. But yeah, the Blood Brute there getting absolutely gadded down. I think the Beastman player maybe overestimated his ability to win the mobility fight, and ultimately Codex winning that mobility fight just from the outset. You know, credit to him. That's a difficult thing to do, to win a mobility fight, kind of spread all over the battlefield like that, right? With all these little individual engagements. Really, really impressive, honestly. So fun stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Let's talk just a little bit more in this endgame. I haven't really featured Wood Elves too much recently on the channel. But yeah, man, the archers, and this is not a stat that you can see when you're looking, right? And this is definitely something to consider when you're thinking about missile DPS in particular. Accuracy is not a stat that's reflected anywhere on the unit card panel, and maybe it should be. There's, you know, different ways. I think there's like calibration distance. There's a few different actual values that go into it in terms of the game code. But anyway, there's no like accuracy measure really. So what you don't get from looking at these Elven bows, which seem pretty low damage, honestly, is that they're going to hit a much higher percentage of their shots than something like, we'll take a really, you know, obvious example and say something like Orc Error Boys, right? You know, they're definitely not nearly as accurate. So although, you know, their damage is, what, 6 and 14? So, you know, per shot, yeah, it's going to be overall higher. Yeah. Yeah, overall a tiny bit higher. But yeah, if we compare to like this guy here, well, I guess this one has 21. So maybe compared to the Hagbane tips, not even, but a similar reload time, right? 11 seconds. But yeah, the thing again that's not reflected is that the much higher percentage of shots hit with the Wood Elves, and in general Elven archers, you know, outside of the Dark Elves with their scattershot crossbows, but for the High Elves and Wood Elves, that high percentage of hit shots means the effective damage is going to be much higher, especially when shooting at a smaller, like, single entity right there, right? Like, Orc Air Boys are going to struggle to deal meaningful damage to an infantry character, even at close range. Whereas you saw there, that's not the case for these Elven archers, these Glade Guards. So definitely something to consider when you're going up against those elves. Gotta watch yourselves. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.